So today we're reading from Untitled Chapter 8. Canto 8, Chapter 22, verse 25. Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi Purushim Gatimavrajet Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet. Please chant.
Yada kadachit jivatma samsaram nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet.
Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet.
Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayoneshvanishoyam Purushim gatim avrajet.
Ladies.
Yada kadachit jivatma
samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet. Yada kadachit jivatma samsaran nijakarmabhi nanayonishvanishoyam Purushim Gatimavrajet.
Yada kadachit jivatma samsaram nijakarmabhi
nanayonishvanishoyam
Purushim Gatimavrajet. Yada when kadachit sometimes Jiva Atma the living entity samsaram rotating in the cycle of birth and death nija karma bihi because of his own fruitive activities Nana Yonishu, in different species of life. Anishaha, not independent, completely under the control of material nature. Ayam, this living entity. Purushim Gatim, the situation of being human. Agrajet, wants to obtain. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. Please repeat. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death, again and again, in different species, because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living entity, by good fortune, may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully independent. Thus, it is not always a fact that a living being's loss of all opulence is a sign of the Supreme Lord's mercy upon him. The Lord can act any way he likes. He may take away one's opulence, or he may not. There are various forms of life, and the Lord treats them according to the circumstances as he chooses. Generally, it is to be understood that the human form of life is one of great responsibility. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti janmanam karanam gunasangosya sadasadyani janmasu. The living entity in material nature follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. This is from Bhagavad Gita 13:22. After thus rotating through many, many forms of life in the cycle of birth and death, the living being gets a chance for a human form. Therefore, every human being, especially one belonging to the civilized nation or culture, must be extremely responsible in his activities. He should not risk degradation in the next life, because the body will change. Tata deham tada praptir. We should be extremely careful. To see to the proper use of life is the purpose of Krishna consciousness. The foolish living entity declares freedom from all control, but factually, he is not free. Excuse me. He is fully under the control of material nature. He must therefore be most careful and responsible in the activities of his life. Read the translation again. While rotating in the cycle of birth and death again and again in different species, because of his own fruitive activities, the dependent living being, or living entity, by good fortune may happen to become a human being. This human birth is very rarely obtained. Seeking all your blessings to glorify the Lord substantial. So I wanted to just recap on what's happening in the story. So this is the story of Bali Maharaj, who personifies surrender, the surrendering process, Atmanivekana. And so some of the points from the previous verses, from reading, that seemed to me as nice points, were that Srila Prabhupada said in the purport that demons have the Lord as a well-wisher because he removes the false pride. And on the contrary, the demigods or the devotees, the demigods are devotees for the sake of material possessions, but they understand that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. So I was also thinking that in this point, in the story of Lord Nrsingadev, after the Lord kills the demon Hiranyakashipu, the demigods try to pacify Lord Nrsingadev, but they weren't able to pacify him. All the demigods approached, then Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, but none of them could pacify. And when Prahlad Maharaj came, that is when Lord Nrsingadev was pacified, because he was a pure devotee. He didn't have any motivation, any material desires. So this is a nice point that even as either a demon or a demigod, obviously we have still work to do. But in the form as a demon, we might think that we're really unable to purify ourselves, or that the process of purification, might be a lot more difficult. But as we see here in the story of Bali Maharaj, that the Lord is always there in the heart as Paramatma, and He's the well-wisher of even the demons. So we all have a chance. We also had the example of Jaya and Vijay, who were the gatekeepers of Lord Vishnu. And when they were cursed by the four Kumaras to fall down to the material world, Lord Vishnu gave them the choice of being born as demons for 3 births, or being born as devotees for 7 births. And I was just thinking of the fact that this is also a sign of mercy, well-wishing, that to be born, first you get 3 births, that's a lot less, and in some sense you're getting your mercy is amplified so many times, because it required only 3 instead of 7, where you could be a devotee, it's a nicer situation. But it might take a longer time. So this is also the point, with the demigods, they're Krishna conscious. They know Krishna. They know He's the proprietor of everything. But it might take them longer to attain perfection. And this is why, it says they are lining up to take birth in the bodies of or in the families of devotees in Kali Yuga. Nice points. Another really nice point. points from the previous verses was that Bali Maharaj never gave up his truthfulness. And this is such a wonderful quality to develop, truthfulness and honesty. And we know in Kali Yuga that Dharma is, resting on only one leg now. And what is that? That is truthfulness. So we understand that this is actually one of the most important legs to be standing on. And that with truthfulness we have hope. So this is why in Kali Yuga it's such an amazing mercy that we get this one leg of Dharma still as our support. So another amazing point was that Lord Brahma was pleading Bali Maharaj's case to Lord Vishnu. And he was telling him, he's offered everything without hesitation, without duplicity, and he was, even quoting the Lord, telling him that, you're saying that we can offer you a leaf, a water, a flower, fruit, and if it's done with devotion, without duplicity, then you're promoted to Vaikuntha. And the Lord accepts this. So Lord Brahma was pleading this case that Bali Maharaj, he gave everything. So please show your mercy upon him, because he became tied by the rope of, what was it? Varuna. So this is a question for all of you. I didn't fully understand when he was tied by the rope. Was this after he offered his head, or this was after he offered his head?
Yeah, after.
Okay. So, getting to this, as he's tied with the ropes of Varuna, then Bali Maharaj's wife, she came and almost chastised him, but she pointed out, one of the defects is that she pointed out that the body doesn't even belong to you. Why are you thinking that you can offer yourself to the Lord when this doesn't even belong to you? So I think his wife's statement, and it's amazing how it was described that she even cut short Lord Brahma as he was talking, to get this point out, because she was so much in anxiety and I guess excited to share this realization that this was one of your diseases that you didn't fully understand this, and maybe that's why the Lord decided to bind you as what's his name? Varuna, his name. So so this is our material disease, that we think we are the proprietor, master of circumstances. And as it states here in the purport, that the material desire brings us to different bodies. And in these different bodies we think we are the master of our circumstances. So before getting into more of these facts about material nature and the body, I just wanted to go over some of the amazing qualities of Bali Maharaj. So this I got from one of the ISKCON sites, and it states that Bali Maharaj has this quality of piousness. So So he was the grandson of the great devotee Prahlad, who instilled in Bali a strong sense of dharma, values, and most importantly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord. With such an upbringing, Bali Maharaj grew up to be very pious, contrary to the expected behavior of others in his Asuric demoniac clan. His reign as the king of the Asuras was characterized by peace, tranquility, and prosperity. Even demigods like Indra became envious of Bali Maharaj. So because of this upbringing and this quality of piousness, thus you can see how he retained this quality of truthfulness as well. And he was able to recognize right away when the Lord Vamanadeva appeared. Right away, without hesitation, he offered him anything he wanted. So another one of his wonderful qualities is charitability. It says, despite possessing all the lands of the universe, Bali Maharaj's power did not corrupt him, and he happened to be always righteous and charitably disposed. When Lord Vamanadev asked for 3 steps of land in charity, Shukracharya, Bali Maharaj's spiritual master, could recognize Lord Vamanadev as the Supreme Lord and advised Bali Maharaj not to give him charity. Bali Maharaj went to the extent of rejecting the advice and at once agreed to give Lord Vamanadev the land requested in charity. We also know that this is the reason why he is named as one of the Maharajas, because he rejected this request from his spiritual master. And actually it says that Sukracharya is not really a bona fide spiritual master. He's I think Sukra means from seminar. And Prabhupada was describing how there are so many gurus like this, especially in Bengal, that are, taking this right to be a guru because of samana, but they haven't developed any qualities. So another one of the Bali Maharaj's qualities is truthfulness. Lord Vamanadev then, with his 2 steps, covered the entire universe and asked Bali Maharaj where to keep the 3rd step. Meanwhile, his soldiers were all defeated by the associates of the Supreme Lord, and Bali was bound with ropes of Varuna. Now Bali Maharaj had lost his original position, bereft of his riches, defeated and arrested, suffering the pain of being bound, also rebuked and cursed by his spiritual master. In spite of all this, he was fixed in his vows and did not give up his truthfulness. So because he agreed to give the Lord 3 steps of land, and after the Lord took the entire 3 worlds with his 2 steps, he never gave up his truthfulness of adhering to his promise, and that's how he gave the Lord his head. So finally it's complete surrender, Atmanivedam. Although Bali Maharaj was the ruler of the entire universe, he at once surrendered and was very glad to receive the Lord's remaining step upon his head. And thus he was blessed by the Lord's becoming his constant companion and doorman. So by giving everything to the cause of the Lord, one does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. And then Mahajanam. Bali Maharaj became successful by offering all he possessed to the Lord, and thus he is glorified in the Srimad Bhagavatam as one of the 12 Mahajanas, or great authorities in the devotional line, namely Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Bhishma, Janaka, Shukadev Goswami, Bali Maharaj, and Yamaraj. Kripa Siddha. Bali Maharaj is one of the Kripa Siddha devotees. Kripa Siddhas are those devotees who might have not followed all the rules and regulations of devotional service, but who, by the special mercy of Guru and the Supreme Lord, have immediately attained the perfection of pure devotional service. Bali Maharaj, by the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, got the seed of devotional service, and when that seed developed, he achieved the ultimate fruit of that service, the love of Godhead, immediately upon the appearance of Lord Amanadev. This is such a wonderful quality to have, this Kripa Siddha, and we pray that we can also have this, because what it says here is that those devotees who might not have followed all the rules and regulations of devotional service, but who by the special mercy of Guru and Supreme Lord, they can immediately attain the perfection of pure devotional service. So we pray that we can get this. So these are all the wonderful qualities of Bali Maharaj, and this pastime just makes us understand how much work we have to do. The whole Srimad Bhagavatam is there to teach us how to behave, the achar, and so I'll just go over what we, in the purport, it's talking about how human life is very rare. So, as it states in the Bhagavad Gita, talks about the progression of the soul, that we all start from there's 8,400,000 species of life, and we can start from the aquatics, insects, birds, reptiles, land animals, and then we get to humans. So this is the transmigration process of the soul. And it says that these different bodies are the result of the association of the modes of nature. So the different varieties of creation of the material nature, they are there because of this association with the modes of nature. And in Krishna consciousness, if we rise above these three modes of material nature, then we are not bound anymore if we rise above. So this is what the process of Krishna consciousness teaches us. And when we hear from authorities, yes, the desire to dominate. When we hear from the Mahajans, the desire to dominate over material nature, it just diminishes. And this is when we can actually enjoy spiritual happiness. So this is, when we're out there preaching, we tell everyone, once you get connected to the Lord, you can start enjoying this real happiness that you're looking for in material possessions. It's so temporary. But once we get a little knowledge and the intelligence kicks in, then we understand where the real happiness lies, and lies in surrendering to the Lord, giving ourselves in devotional service. So when the living entity is put in different bodies, it comes with different kinds of happiness and distress, as it's said in the purport. So for example, we have the bodies of the animals and trees. The animals, as we know, there's always fear. And when Prabhupada said you can be put in the body of a dog or a hog, and in that body, the circumstances is that he likes to eat stool. The dog is running after the she dog and always sniffing in the back. So these are the circumstances. I remember there was one rapper in the U.S. His name is Snoop Dogg. He had one music video where actually him and his friends, they were turning into dogs. And I was just really impressed by that. I was like, wow, they actually understand their position, because in their human form they're actually behaving like dogs. And but the sad thing is that they don't understand that this is horrible, this is misery. They think this is enjoying. So maybe the dog can enjoy more sex life. I don't know what the mentality is there. But this is the ignorance, deep ignorance that we as devotees, need to try to dissipate by performing a Harinam Sankirtan. It's the only way that we can get to these people. There's also another example. I was speaking to one boy when I was in Miami, and getting to know him a little and just talking to him about the philosophy and the different forms of life. And I was telling him, you can get the form of a tree, and he was so attracted to coming, to the form of a tree. He said, yeah, that would be so nice, but fully, being ignorant of the misery in that form, that there's not understanding that there's limited consciousness, and that only in the human form can we understand who we are. So this is also a form of, I guess, ego and trying to lord over material nature. You think, oh yeah, I can get the body, any kind of body I want, so I can enjoy. And this is deep, deep ignorance, that we think we can always enjoy in any type of body. But we don't understand that we're going to be bound to the laws of material nature. So, and this is what it states in the Bhagavad Gita: the body is matter, and matter comes under control of nature. So matter is always bound by the laws of nature. And we have no power to change the laws of material nature. This is why, Prabhupada says, if we get the body of a dog or a hog, we gotta eat stool. And there's nothing we can do about that. So the living entity must act according to his body, and this is how Srila Prabhupada said we're embarrassed. We're embarrassed by this fact that we're actually not under control, even though we think we are. But the positive, so Srila Prabhupada always tells us the negative, but there's always a positive. And that positive is that the Lord is Paramatma. He's always accompanying us. and he's the well-wisher. So, so in order to get out of this disease of wanting to be the controller, lord it over material nature, Lord Krishna gives us, this special mercy of taking everything away. This happens all the time. You can see in the news, you have a big leader, a big superstar businessman